South African Home Affairs Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi paid a courtesy visit to his Lesotho counterpart, Lebona Lephema, at the Maseru Bridge on Saturday. The two ministers have agreed to schedule bilateral talks in the next 2 weeks ahead of the signing of a binational cooperation, which will be led by President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Lesotho counterpart, Prime Minister Sam Matekane.
The implementation plan of an independent border management authority structure is well on its course.
Out of order!
The Home Affairs Minister Motsoaledi is visiting Maseru Bridge to witness border law enforcement plans for the 2022-23 festive plans as many now return to work. Meanwhile, the minister also paid a first courtesy visit to the newly appointed Lesotho's Home Affairs Minister Lebona Lephema. The duo took time to unpack teething issues that tend to taint relations between the two neighbors, and some more intimate than others.
All I know is that in terms of South African law, when you are married to a South African, you immediately acquire South African citizenship through some problems. So if you are a Makoti in South Africa, you become a South African citizen. I'm not sure about here in Lesotho.
Motsoaledi went on to explain how some visa systems is supposed to be working.
But throughout SADC, the period through which you are allowed to come without that visa is 90 days. I know others make it 30, but it's generally 90 days. We know that there are school kids from here in Maseru who attend school in South Africa. We have catered for them. You can't expect them to have their passport stamped every day. Otherwise, they'll take a passport every week. They are given a special form, which is signed every day they go in and out.
Lesotho is totally enclaved in South Africa. While some of these concessions are meant to cater for such, but the reality on the ground seems to be the opposite.
I also know that there are women who go for antenatal care in Bloemfontein and Lady Brand Hospital here, next door, who are from here in Maseru. You don't expect them to apply for a passport every time they've got the flu. There are forms which they must sign and go and to go past. So when I say our officials are going to meet, is to look at whether those mechanisms are working well or whether those mechanisms are having a problem and actually how to improve such mechanisms.
Minister Lephema has thanked his counterpart for taking time to appreciate the situation on the ground.
We all know that Lesotho has got only one neighbor, our neighbor South Africa. And we are really taking it very much into consideration that the relations should be harmonized.
Both ministers then exchanged gifts in appreciation of their first meeting and agreed to have their first official meeting in the next 2 weeks in preparation for the principal signing of the much-anticipated binational cooperation that will be launched in Lesotho. SABC News, Maseru, Lesotho.
Well, for a little bit more on this, we're now joined via Zoom by the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. Minister, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Perhaps we can just start with your initial reflections on your trip to the Maseru Bridge.
Good evening, Peter. Good evening to the listeners and viewers out there. Look, Peter, every year since I became Minister of Home Affairs, in December and also in January, I do visit a border post. Usually, I used to choose Bridge and Lebombo because those are problematic ones. But now that ANC was having its birthday, January 8th, in Bloemfontein, I decided that I must then go to Maseru to do what I do every year. After hearing that I'm coming, Minister of Home Affairs, Police and Traditional Authorities in Lesotho, Mr. Lephema, then decided that he wants me to pay a courtesy visit to him so that we can raise a few things. And that's basically what has happened.
What issues did come up? I know that you're going to have more talks ahead of that to bilateral, but what sort of issues have come to the fore for both of you?
Well, as the Minister of Lesotho is totally surrounded by South Africa. So our relationship with them has to somehow be different from the other countries, because wherever they want to go in the world, they have to pass through South Africa. They've got no choice. And so for that reason, there are certain demands and requests that they made. There are certain needs that they have, which many other people from other countries do not have. Like, as you said from the clip there are kids in Maseru who attend school in South Africa. And so you can't work with them like you do with other countries through stamping a passport every time they go through. We also know that they use hospitals in South Africa. When I was the Minister of Health, I personally officially opened Lady Brand, a brand new hospital in Lady Brand, state-of-the-art hospital actually. And I found that the majority of people who are using it come from Lesotho, because Lady Brand is a country that is being depleted. South Africans are moving elsewhere, especially to Bloemfontein. So most of the people who use that hospital are from Lesotho. So for that reason, we become sensitive to their needs. That's why at Maseru border post, we have got a green lane there where the school kids pass through, where they're just given a form, which gets stamped. Because if we have to stamp their passport every time, their passport will be full within a week. So those are some of the issues that we're raising.
All right, let's talk a little bit about border management, enforcement, particularly at a high traffic time such as this. It seems as if systems are working better. Was that something that you saw at Maseru Bridge?
Oh, yes. You'll be aware, Peter, that we are not really having an entity to manage our borders. They were just managed by ordinary officials of Home Affairs in their ordinary everyday work. But you are aware that we have now officially launched the Border Management Authority. In the clip there, you can see the border guards in their green uniforms. One of your officials there was interviewed the commissioner. Maybe you need to understand what this means. The Border Management Authority, being a new entity that's going to manage our borders, has got a commissioner who is at the same level, has got the same status as the Commissioner of South African Police Services, and is held by two deputy commissioners who are also at the same level as deputy commissioners in SABC. The only difference is that the commissioner of the Border Management Authority, their area of operation is only the borders, whereas the commissioner of police, their area of operation is the whole country. So now that we have got an authority that is dealing with this on an everyday basis, things tend to become better. On the 1st of April, the Border Management Authority is going to be a standalone entity, what is called a 3D standalone entity, 3D in terms of the Public Finance Management Act. At the moment, it's still a branch in Home Affairs, but after the 1st of April, it's going to be a standalone reporting to a group of 8 ministers, not only me, 8 ministers. It so happened that I'm chairing those 8 ministers, who must meet statutorily 4 times a year or as required. These are the ministers who have got something to do with the borders: finance, police, defense, trade, industry and competition, health, state security, agriculture, environment. All those ministers have got something to do with borders. They will be the one to which the Border Management Authority reports. So you can see it's a really well-structured system now, unlike in the past where it was being done on an ad hoc basis. That's why you are not experiencing any problems anymore.
All right, we'll talk about border management in general a little bit more just now, particularly Beitbridge. But speaking about Lesotho, the special permits that we often talk about in relation to Zimbabwe, Basotho also have these. I believe there may be about 90,000 of them. Is this going to be something you discuss in this binational cooperation? What is the end game here?
Well, we'll leave it to Lesotho if they want to raise it, Peter. If they've got something to raise about the Lesotho special permit, then we'll respond to them.
All right. But at the moment, they're going to expire just like the Zimbabwean ones?
Yes, of course, they do expire because all of them have got a time period. They were all issued for a period of 5 years. And they were, specifically that at the end of that 5 years, they do expire, just like the Zimbabwean ones expired.
What will happen to the Basotho ones after the expiry date? Could there be an extension considered?
I'll answer that question when the time comes, Peter, at an appropriate time, because we are looking into the issue, just like we looked into the Zimbabwean special permit for the whole year. We'll do the same because the time of expiry of the Basotho special permit is still to come.
All right. Let's talk about movement in and out of Zimbabwe. I believe hundreds of people were arrested and deported. What sort of tricks and games are people playing that you're able to detect that they're trying their luck with?
Well, as I've said, we're not really managing our borders as we should because we never had an authority. Some of the people were smuggled in buses. They were coming in there without any documentation. Remember, Peter, let me maybe explain this very clearly. When members of SADC countries visit each other, that means within the 15 SADC countries, people don't need visas. They come visa-free, as long as they know that they've got a total of 90 days in a calendar year. Whether they use those whole 90 days or they use them bit by bit or they use them all at a time is the choice of an individual, but they've got 90 days. After that 90 days, if you exhaust all the 90 days, you are not stopped to come. You are then required to apply for a visa. If you don't apply for that visa, then the day you cross the border, you are going to be declared undesirable. And so you won't be allowed to come into South Africa for a period of a year or sometimes even 5 years, depending on how long you have overstayed. Now, quite a number of people like to come without a passport. A passport is standard to every country in the world. Nobody crosses a border anywhere without a passport. Once you do so, you become illegal. But there are people who believe that in South Africa, it should not matter. People should be allowed to come in whatever way. It's not allowed, Peter. Passport is standard. Even heads of states are not allowed to cross into another country without a passport. We had a situation where we had to stop heads of state at the airport for their embassies to organize a passport urgently because it's an act of parliament and it's also international law controlled by the Civil Aviation Authority. So the people who are using some of these tricks being smuggled, some of them simply don't have a passport, a document which is standard, which they are supposed to have, and they believe they must sneak through. As I said, others are coming by buses. I'm sure you are aware that there's a bus called Rimvi, which last year in Good Friday, I encountered at Maseru Bridge where they used to come into South Africa carrying illegal people, and we charged the money. In terms of the law, you're supposed to charge them 15,000 rands for every passenger they bring illegally into the country. We also do that to the airlines because the airlines also do smuggle people in. So now that there is a clear border management authority, those activities are going to come to an end, as we have seen, that things are starting to run smooth now.
All right. You've just concluded your 55th National Conference, and migration was one of the issues that were discussed. And it seems as if there's been a call for a major overhaul in migration laws. In general terms, what sort of things have been a concern that you're looking to fix?
Peter, you realize that ANC has got subcommittees. One of them is a peace and stability subcommittee, which has been settled with this issue of porous borders, trafficking, smuggling of goods, counterfeit goods, and all that. it has been dealing with the matter for quite a long time. So when we realized gaps, even with the establishment of the Border Management Authority, we realized that the immigration policy in the whole country need to be completely overhauled from the beginning, because actually we don't really have an overriding policy on immigration since 1994. What we have is 3 pieces of legislation that impact on immigration. That is the Citizenship Act of 1995, the Refugee Act of 1998, and the Immigration Act of 2002. Now, one of the things that we submitted to the ANC, which has been adopted, is that those acts must be incorporated into one with different chapters. So our aim is to overhaul the whole immigration system in the country. There are quite a number of things which we have proposed. One of them, Peter, is that every year we have got more than 2,000 marriages in South Africa, which are fraudulent. Many of them marriages of convenience, because if you marry a South African, you suddenly get South African documents, your immigration rules are over. Now that's wrong, Peter, because marriage is supposed to be for love. You don't marry somebody, I'm sure you'll agree with me, you don't marry somebody because you want certain documents. Because what it means is that immediately after getting those documents, you no longer want to stay with that person because you have never loved them. You just wanted to get documents through them. And for that reason, there are quite a number of women who get divorced every time people get their documents. They divorce them and dump them or start abusing them, increasing GPV. So one of the things we have requested, which ANC has accepted, is that we must de-link between marriage and immigration. Marriage must be out of love, a lifelong relationship between two individuals, which must have nothing to do with immigration, and it must be controlled by the Marriage Act. If there are children involved, then they must be regulated through the Children's Act. We do have quite a number of children, Peter, unfortunately, who came into this world through that same process, where a man is told that, look, if you have a child with a woman in South Africa, you won't be requested to go away. And they suddenly impregnate somebody and bring a child into this world for all the wrong reasons. Really, we can't go on like that. So we are requesting that we must de-link. Anybody who wants to immigrate to South Africa must do so purely through immigration laws. Anybody who falls in love with any individual around the world or in South Africa, they must do so through immigration laws.
All right, Dr. Motsoaledi, we're going to leave it there for the time being, but thank you very, very much indeed for joining us and sharing some thoughts with us tonight. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.